What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another video on high altitude investing. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Theta and the bigger picture as well as the smaller time frames. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. All right, so we're starting off here on the bigger time frame, and as you can see, I have Theta on the 4-month candlesticks, way zoomed out here on the logarithmic chart, checking out the big picture cycle and comparing it to one of the first cycles on Ethereum. The price of Ethereum saw a very big pump, followed by a huge ABC correction that shook most people out of the market. Then we saw another big pump all the way up to a new all-time high. Now, if you look at Theta currently, we really did the same thing. We had a big pump back in 2020 and 2021 a little bit as well, and that led to a very large correction here on Theta. Now, most people have been shaken out of the market at this point because of the fact that we had this big correction. A lot of people are bearish, just like what happened to Ethereum right here in March of 2020, as everybody panic sold their Ethereum during the COVID drop right before Ethereum went all the way to a new all-time high. So what I personally see coming for Theta is a very similar move with a big pump coming in this market, just like what we saw on Ethereum after Ethereum bottomed out in March of 2020. Now, how high that pump is going to go, nobody knows for sure exactly what extension we're going to reach. This thing could hit $50, it could hit $200. Nobody knows for sure. It could hit $20, right? That's pretty unlikely because that's pretty much where the old all-time high was, here at $16. So it's more likely that we see an extension up past our old all-time high. But the fact of the matter is that Theta is heavily undervalued here in the big picture and really is ready for a big parabolic run, just like what happened to Ethereum in 2020 and 2021. So that's kind of the big picture view here on Theta. According to cycle analysis, we really are at these all-time lows right now. We're at the point of maximum financial opportunity with the minimum financial risk. Now, there is a lot of volatility in this area with this big crash clear from 80 cents all the way down to 20 cents. But again, Ethereum saw a very similar crash as it crashed from $247 all the way down to 91. So be watching for that big pump coming in this market all the way up to a new all-time high, followed by a correction at some point, of course. But in the meantime, we're undervalued and we should be watching for a bull market rather than a bear market. Before I get too far into this video though, I do want to mention I do have a Black Friday sale going on where you guys can get 50% off of all of the VIP products, whether that's lifetime VIP investing signals and trade signals, or whether that's one-on-one coaching with me personally. This Black Friday sale does end soon, and I don't have a lot of open slots for one-on-one coaching, so make sure you guys take advantage of this sale while you can and get 50% off on all VIP products. So let's check out Theta on the smaller time frames as well. We're going to drop down to the daily and do a little analysis on that time frame. Now, here on the daily candlesticks, we do have quite the drop off here when everybody panic sold their crypto as Bitcoin fell from 126,000 down to 80K. We have had selling on Theta as well. Of course, the altcoins are going to follow Bitcoin. They always do. Whether it's up or down, altcoins are pretty much always going to follow Bitcoin. And because of that, we did have a pretty big correction here in the short term on Theta. But we do have this downward trending resistance line. We're starting to see some strength off of these lows. The second that we break above this downward trending resistance line, that's really a green light go for this coin, where we should have a really big breakout and a full recovery all the way back up to over $1 pretty quickly. So be watching for any break above 40 cents that will really confirm a local bottom here and the beginning of a reversal off of these lows. And also for looking at the daily candlesticks here on Theta and we zoom out a little bit, we do see a big ABC correction coming from our peak over here, $3.80, all the way down to current price. So this ABC correction is a pretty good entry here. I love buying the bottom of these ABC corrections. The most profitable moves I've ever had in crypto were buying the bottom of big ABC corrections. In fact, one example of this is when I first got into crypto. I bought Bitcoin in 2015. I didn't even know what an ABC correction was at this point in time, but I bought Bitcoin at the bottom here in 2015 after a big ABC correction, and that led to a very profitable move here in 2016 and 2017, where I made my first big fortune at 21 years old. And ever since then, I've been looking for ABC corrections because I learned what they were later, went back and found out that that's why Bitcoin ran so hard in 2016 and 2017. Was because of that ABC correction. So I've been looking for these corrections ever since and buying the bottom of those moves wherever I can in order to make the most possible profit in these markets. And you can really see how over and over again, Bitcoin has recovered after these corrections and saw really big runs on the upside. Whether it's a smaller correction or bigger correction, it's pretty much always an ABC. Even right here in 2024, when everybody was panic selling their Bitcoin and we were bullish on Bitcoin during this period of time on this channel, it was really because of an ABC correction that I was bullish on Bitcoin, plus a big cup and handle pattern at that time that led me to believe that Bitcoin would see more upside. And of course, we did run up to 126,000 after Bitcoin had completed its ABC correction at those levels. And even currently on Bitcoin, as we speak, we have a zigzag correction on Bitcoin. Wave A, wave B, and wave C. And we're starting to see some strength up off of these lows. This could easily be the local bottom here on Bitcoin. At the bottom of this ABC correction, we could see a very sharp V-shaped recovery and a continuation of this trend, which is exactly what I expect to have happen on Bitcoin in the bigger picture. So this is going to lead Theta, all your favorite altcoins, to see strong recoveries in this market because of how perfect of an opportunity it is to buy Bitcoin down here in this extreme fear. While people are panic selling, this is a perfect example of a good buying opportunity. And as bigger institutions have adopted crypto, and we've seen institutional money coming into this really since 2017, but especially since 2021, we started to see institutional money accumulate, especially during the FTX crash. They've been accumulating a lot of crypto. And because of that, Bitcoin moves a lot more like the S&P 500. So expect violent crashes with V-shaped recoveries on Bitcoin over and over again, because that's exactly the way Bitcoin has been behaving. It's acting like the S&P 500 because big institutions are here and they're playing this market just like they would the S&P 500. So we're seeing the same kind of attitude on Bitcoin currently. And just looking at the S&P 500 over here on the left and Bitcoin over here on the right, you can see how they really are moving so similar with these violent, sharp crashes. And I'm expecting a very sharp, very quick recovery here on Bitcoin, where this whole move basically becomes a wick in the bigger time frames. Now, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin dominance is going to go up, because Bitcoin dominance is clearly breaking bearish. We have a rising wedge here on Bitcoin dominance that we broke bearish out of. We also have the early signs of a head and shoulders top on Bitcoin dominance. So even though Bitcoin is going to bottom out and see a very sharp recovery, in my opinion, we will still have a big crash on Bitcoin dominance as Bitcoin dominance continues to show weakness as we break bearish from this rising wedge and potentially break bearish from this head and shoulders top, in which case we're going to see a big run on your altcoins. Now, your altcoins are going to go bigger percentage than Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin is going to be going up in value. Bitcoin dominance is going to be going down because of how much altcoins are going to be running during this period of time. And I really still hold true to this idea that the stock market has juice left in it. I know this thing is very parabolic. It looks like it's going to top any minute. But if you study cycles and you take a look at what's happened in historical cycles, you get a pretty good idea of what the stock market could do here in the bigger picture. If we just look at Bitcoin in 2017 and study this cycle, comparing it to the Dow Jones, you can actually see a lot of similarities between the Dow Jones current cycle and what Bitcoin did in 2017. We have our first sell-off pattern right here that I have circled. We also have our midway cool-off right here that happened during COVID on the S&P 500. And after we had that midway cool-off on Bitcoin, we ran all the way up to $20,000 per coin. So although I do see a top coming soon on the stock market, maybe within the next few years, I still see a bit of a run here on stocks before we finally top out in this big cycle on the Dow Jones. In which case, if the Dow Jones does see a big run here to finish off its market cycle and sees that blow off top that happens before the big bear markets, then we're going to see a lot of money flooding into crypto. We're going to see a lot of money flooding into tech stocks, everything. We're going to see a big run, a big final blow off top in the stock market and in the crypto markets and pretty much across the board. But I will say this thing can't go up forever and it's going to have to come down at some point. But there's usually one more big rally before the real top comes in place. Everybody will try to call the top the whole way up, but there's almost always one more big rally before the true top is finally in. And this is why it's so powerful to go study these cycles and understand the psychology at different phases of the cycle so you can get an idea of where you're at in the cycle. And that gives you context of what to do with your money as the market cycle continues forward. If you're in the depression phase, then it's time to buy. If you're getting ready to go into the euphoria phase like this, there's still opportunity to be buying or holding on to your stocks or your crypto or whatever you're trading before the true top comes in on that market. Can you imagine how profitable it's going to be once the stock market does top out here and we see a bear market? The people that short this, the people that take profits, and the people that ride up here, this final blow off top here on the stock market, are going to make a lot of money during this period before the subsequent crash happens. And the people that are shorting, they're going to make a lot of money during the crash. So that's why I say don't get too excited about trying to call a top on crypto. Don't get too excited about trying to call a top on the stock market, because that last blow off top, that final run, always happens in these markets, and it pretty much always tricks everybody. Everybody tries to call the top the whole way up. They try to call the top right here. They try to call the top right here. They try to call the top right here, and they're trying to call the top right now. But usually the top doesn't actually come until nobody's trying to call the top. And to be honest with you, everybody's been trying to call the top the whole way up right here. So once we have one more big run and everybody thinks it's going to go up forever, that will probably be the true top in the stock market. And when the stock market tops out, that will also make me want to de-risk and de-leverage out of crypto, because once the stock market tops, there's no promise that crypto is going to keep seeing this big run that we've been seeing throughout this whole period. Because to be honest with you, the big bull run on crypto is really a reflection of how bullish the stock market is. We've been seeing a big run since '09 here, when we bottomed out after the housing market crash. And this big run that we've seen in stocks, that's the reason that Bitcoin is so high. Bitcoin and all of our altcoins and stuff, the reason that we've had such a big run in crypto really since the bottom here in '09 when Bitcoin first got released is because the stock market has been in this huge bullish run. So the world economy is generally bullish, contrary to popular belief. And because of that, crypto has done very well. Tech stocks have done very well. All of this stuff has done very, very well in the big picture. But once the stock market tops out, there's no promise that crypto is going to keep going up. So that's why I say get it while the getting is good, as we have this big run coming in the stock market. I also foresee a very big run coming in crypto during that same period of time. And during that run is going to be the most profitable time to be making a bunch of money on crypto and taking your profits, especially as we get closer to the top on the stock market. And then you can think about shorting these markets, because I know a lot of people are getting excited trying to short the markets right now. But you got to step back and ask yourself, is this really the top of crypto? Is this really the top of the stock market? most people are going to get it wrong. And I think most people are too early, even professionals. I see professionals saying that they think the top is in, but I think they're too early. A lot of these same professionals have been trying to call the top the entire way up. And I just keep thinking, man, when are you guys going to learn to hold your tongue and stop trying to call the top? Because you're never going to make good money if you just keep trying to call the top when you're in a massive uptrend. And by the way, with Bitcoin dominance looking so bearish right now, this does mean that Theta versus Bitcoin is likely going to bottom very, very soon. If you study the Bitcoin pairs go all the way to the moon, and they see 100% retraces. Like they'll go all the way back down to the bottom. Sometimes they'll even retrace below support, like we see here with Theta. But when that market looks like it's completely dead versus Bitcoin and looks like it's never going to recover, that's when you get these big pumps on the altcoin pairs. Bitcoin altcoin pairs. That's when you get these big runs. So Theta really is set up to see a big reversal here very soon on the Bitcoin pair, which is going to lead to a very profitable move against the dollar, especially as Bitcoin continues to increase in value against the dollar. So that's why I say probably the worst place you could be in right now is USDT. Everybody's putting money in the dollar. They're panic selling. They think it's the top. They think crypto's done. They've given up on alt season. And they're all in USDT right now calling for 50K or 40K per coin. And that's pretty much the worst place you could be. The best place you could be right now is in altcoins, to be honest with you. That's the best place you could have the majority of your portfolio is in the altcoin markets. And if you're buying altcoins right now, you're set up to make the most money possible, because we're really at that phase of this current cycle where we're going to switch from being a Bitcoin bull market to an altcoin bull market, even though Bitcoin's still going to increase in value. And the US dollar dominance, USDT dominance, actually looks pretty bearish here. We have the early signs of a potential head and shoulders with the left shoulder here, a head right here, and a right shoulder forming right now on the USDT dominance. So this leads me to believe that we're going to see a correction here on the US dollar dominance. This has seen a pretty big run, especially since 2018. And this is a sign that big institutions were accumulating. They've been shaking retail out of this market. Retail has been panicking into the US dollar, especially since retail was so heavy on altcoins. And now that they've all given up on their altcoins, you can see that the dollar dominance looks like it's ready to crash. And if the USDT dominance starts to crash here, we're going to see a big run in the altcoin markets. And that's going to cause a lot of profit for the people that hold their altcoins. But the thing is most people are not holding their altcoins right now. And really that's because the big institutions have shaken everybody out of the market. They're all holding either Bitcoin or the US dollar. And you can see that in the chart. And because of that, now that they're all shaken out of the market, we're going to have a big run on altcoins. I firmly believe that. And when we get this big run coming in the altcoin markets, we're going to see USDT dominance fall off a cliff. We're going to see Bitcoin dominance fall off a cliff. Even though Bitcoin will be increasing in value, it will really be alt season again, which we really, to be honest with you, we haven't seen a good, strong alt season since 2021. And we haven't seen like a really big alt season since 2017. So that's why I'm so bullish on Theta right now, because we are ready to have that big bullish alt season that everybody's been waiting for. I'm super excited about it. Theta is going to be one of the top performers during that alt season, just like it was in 2021. It's heavily undervalued, and I believe it's going to be one of the most profitable holds in the up and coming altcoin bull market. And I know it's been a long time coming, but this market really does favor people that are patient. People will get a little excited. They want to sell their coins for other coins because they're not up in profit yet. But the market favors people that are patient. And once everybody's given up like they have now on altcoins especially, that's exactly the point in the cycle where it flips and they all go up, because once people have given up and there's no longer people that are patient in that market, then it goes up, because the people that are truly patient have held on and they're going to make money, right? So I'm super excited about the profit coming in these markets. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do me a favor and share it with your friends. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos. And as always, stay profitable out there.